Sunlight and thick mist create intricate patterns over the Ki Mountains. According to legend, a divine tomb was built here in the deeps of time. That of the goddess Izanami, one of the founding deities of Japan. How many eons have passed since then? In this land where the souls of the dead sleep, pilgrims began to appear in growing numbers to worship both Japan's native gods and the Buddhist deities. In July 2004, the sacred sites of the Ki Mountains and the pilgrims' roads that connect them were designated as World Heritage Cultural Assets by UNESCO. Koyasan, sacred center of the Shingon sect of esoteric Buddhism. Kumano Sanzan, where Shinto gods and Buddhist deities are worshipped together. The mountains of Yoshino and Omine, home of the Shungen sect of ascetic Buddhism, and the pilgrims' roads that connect them. The Shugendo ascetic practice of Yoshino and Omine is a uniquely Japanese blend of ancient mountain worship, Shintoism, and Buddhism. Through rigorous training, practitioners cleanse themselves and acquire spiritual power from nature. The Okugake Michi, or steep mountain road of Omine, still attracts many pilgrims today. The three sacred sites of Yoshino, Kumano, and Koyasan, and the pilgrims' roads that connect them. Here, we can discover a world of prayer that has been nestled in the heart of the Ki Mountains since the beginning of time. The many overlapping ridges of the Ki Mountains stretch far to the horizon. These steep peaks and dense forests have protected a sacred place of prayer. To the east, the mountains are bordered by the broad Kumano Sea. It is this sea that gave birth to the dense forests here. The wet air brought north on the warm Japan current generates about 3,000 millimeters of rain a year in the Ki Mountains. Wrapped in thick mist, the deep forests are pregnant with spiritual energy. In the distant past, hunters searching for game worked their way into the mountains, where they found gigantic trees. The forest concealed an enigma that surpassed human power. This feeling of awe eventually expressed itself in the belief that gods lived in the trees. We met a man who tries to give those gods a visible form. Masanao Higashi is 74 years old. Like his ancestors before him, he lives and works as a forester in Totsukawamura village, deep in the Ki Mountains. It was about 10 years ago that he began to feel the need to express his gratitude to the gods of the trees. Since then, he has spent his spare time searching for pieces of wood for carving images of Shinto and Buddhist deities.
200年経って倒木した中で枝の一番芯を陣というんだけどね、衣をまとってこう合唱してるような格好に打ち合わせしてね、でこれが顔になるんです。まあ神は木に宿るとかいうことで、何かをやっぱし魂を入れたったら生き返るんじゃないかと思って私は思うんだけどね。
In villages deep in the mountains, people still observe an ancient custom. When someone dies, they take a part of the body into the mountains and leave it there. A lock of hair or a fingernail serves to symbolize the kotsu, or remains of the deceased. Straw sandals and rice balls are hung from a nearby tree on the way into the mountains. This custom is called kotsunobori, or the ascent of the remains.
朝出る時に一番身内の亡くなった人の一番身内になる人がお骨を胸にかけまして、もう一人の人がこのわらじと骨のおにぎりと杖と持ちまして、一人は雨が降らなくても、コウモリ傘を差して家を出たんです。
The open umbrella keeps the defilement of death locked beneath it. The sandals and rice balls are meant to assist the deceased on his journey to the afterworld. The sandals and rice balls are always hung on a tree beyond the first valley that's crossed on the way into the mountains. The valley represents the border between the living world and the realm of the dead. Since ancient times, it has been widely believed that Kumano harbors the souls of the dead. The Arima area in the city of Kumano has something that attests to this belief. A towering 70-meter rock on the shore called Hana no Iwaya, or Cave of Flowers. This rock is said to be the grave of the goddess Izanami, one of the two deities who created Japan. According to legend, Izanami was burned to death as she gave birth to the god of fire, Kagutsuchi. After her death, she went to dwell in the netherworld, where the souls of the dead gather. The poet Makoto Oka, who traveled to Kumano, wrote these observations about the Cave of Flowers.
The goddess Izanami had sovereignty over the land of the dead. Scholars tell us that her traditional burial site in Kumano should be considered together with the fact that her daughter, the sun goddess Amaterasu, is worshipped at the shrine in nearby Ise. The shining sun goddess dwells in Ise. The goddess of the dead dwells in Kumano. Perhaps this has something to do with the deeply held belief that Kumano is a sacred gathering place for the souls of the dead, and a point of departure for those seeking the pure land of Amida Buddha. At least we might say that if Yamato and Ise were the face of Japan, then Kumano was its hidden country, filled with a dark and mysterious power.
Twice a year, a ceremony is held at the Cave of Flowers to pacify the spirit of Izanami. It's called Otsunakake Shinji, the ritual of the flowered rope. The ritual is held on the 2nd of February. Camellias and rape blossoms are tied to new ropes in a profusion of color. The main rope is 180 meters long. More than 200 people pull it to the beach in order to raise the flowers high. The flowers tied to the rope are presented as an offering to the dead. This ritual is mentioned in a historical chronicle of Japan called the Nihon Shoki, which was written in the 8th century.
Burned when she gave birth to the god of fire, the goddess Izanami no Mikoto expired. She was buried at Arima village of Kumano in the country of Kii. When worshipping the spirit of this goddess, the local people present flowers in season. They also play drums and flutes and sing and dance using banners.
Kumano, a land that holds mysterious power. It may be that even as they stood in fear and awe, people in those ancient times sensed the repose of the afterworld beckoning in the gently swaying flowers of their ritual offering. The Kii Mountains came to be viewed as the home of dead souls. Then, in the 9th century, the great Buddhist priest Kukai built a new place of prayer. This was Koyasan, the sacred home of the Shingon sect of esoteric Buddhism. At the center of the realm of faith stands Danjo-garan, the sacred precinct. The buildings here represent the different worlds of esoteric Buddhism.
The top of the mountain is strangely flat. There, as if they were a growing city, stand the soaring halls and pagodas, the Garan Sanctuary, and the subsidiary temples with their deep eaves and connecting mud walls. At the starting point of the main thoroughfare, a great gate soars skyward, leaving one to conjecture that this must have been how the gates of the capital city looked in Tang, China. On the far side of the gate, there is nothing but open sky. The low mountains fold back layer upon layer, leaving an immense space in all seasons and times. Looking at that void from the gate, one gets the feeling that this city of religion is not real at all, but some kind of phantom stretching out to the sky. Of all the many urban and rural places in Japan, surely Koyasan is a unique foreign land.
Koyasan is visited by 1.2 million pilgrims every year. About 4,500 people live here, and nearly all of them are adherents of the Shingon sect. For these local residents, religious faith pervades every aspect of daily life. We could see this for ourselves in a long-established shop that makes goma tofu, or sesame tofu. Goma tofu has long been prized by the vegetarian Buddhist monks as a precious source of protein. "30-year-old Shiro Hamada is the 5th generation of Hamadas to own this shop. He acquired the qualifications of a priest about a year ago. At each stage in the tofu making process, he chants the Heart Sutra. More than 1,000 monks live at Koyasan, and they still engage in ascetic training. One of the ultimate teachings of the esoteric Shingon sect is the concept of Sokushin Jobutsu, or immediate Buddhahood, which asserts that people can become Buddhas in their present human form. On the eastern end of the Koyasan complex, there lies another sacred place, a huge cemetery 2 kilometers long called Okuno-in. The grave of Kukai can be found furthest to the back. Kukai left this world in the year 835 at the age of 62. After his death, monks from Koyasan began conducting missionary work throughout Japan. One result of this was the gradual dissemination of the belief that followers of Kukai should seek their final resting place at Koyasan. It is said that there are far more than 200,000 gravestones in Okuno-in. One reason for this widespread desire to be buried at Koyasan is the ancient belief that the Ki Mountains are a gathering place for the souls of the dead. Rather than abandon this belief, Kukai incorporated it in his world of esoteric Buddhism. The Kumanogawa River flows from the Ki Mountains into the Kumano Sea. People once believed that a god dwelled here too. In the town of Hongucho in Wakayama Prefecture, there's a small grove of trees standing on a sandbar in the river. This was once the site of the Kumano Hongu Taisha Shrine. This is a picture of the Hongu Taisha Shrine dating from the early 19th century. It was dedicated to the god of the Kumanogawa River. No shrine stands there today, however. In 1889, all but 3 of the shrine buildings were washed away in a great flood. Two years after the flood, the 3 surviving buildings were moved to higher ground, about 500 meters from the original site. This is how Kumano Hongu Taisha Shrine looks today. To the front stands the Shojoden, or Hall of True Witness. Its name comes from the belief that the wishes of the faithful who come here will be truly granted. The shrine is dedicated to the god Ketsumiko no Okami. Originally, he was ensconced on the sandbar in the river, where he governed the realms of food and fertility. In the troubled times of the 11th century, however, people came to call upon this god for help in the afterworld and for rebirth after death. This is the 8-leaf mandala of Kumano Hongu, which depicts the many gods associated with Kumano Sanzan. 9 figures appear on the lotus flower in the center. The very center of the flower is occupied not by Kitsumiko no Okami, but by Amida, the Buddha of the Western Paradise. But why would a Buddha be placed at the center of a mandala dedicated to Shinto gods? This is the shore of Nachikatsura, Wakayama Prefecture. It's the site of another place where gods and Buddhas are worshipped together. About 8 kilometers into the mountains from this shore, a shrine stands facing the sea. It is Kumano Nachi Taisha Shrine, another one of the 3 main shrines of Kumano. The god worshipped here is a natural feature that has been held in reverence for over 2,000 years. Nachi Falls. At 133 meters, it is by far the highest waterfall in Japan. Nachi Falls combined the miraculous power of both the mountain gods and the river gods. Along with all the Shinto gods who dwell here, there is also a tradition of Buddhist worship. The story begins here on the Nachi shore. The time is the early 5th century, about 140 years before Buddhism was introduced to Japan. One day, an Indian monk, born upon the Japan current, found himself cast ashore here. He built himself a hermitage by the sea and spent his days in meditation. Because he wore nothing but a single loincloth, the locals came to call him Ragyo Shonin, or the Naked Saint. In pursuit of more demanding ascetic practices, the holy man made his way into the Nachi Mountains. There he came upon a giant waterfall. He stayed there more than 1,000 days, absorbed in religious austerities. Then one day, he pulled a dazzling gold image of the Bodhisattva Kannon from the bottom of the falls. From then on, Ragyo Shonin worshipped Kannon and called the entire Nachi mountain region Kannon Jodo, the pure land of Kannon. The temple that Ragyo Shonin built at that time is located right next to the Nachi Taisha Shrine. It is called Seigantoji Temple of Nachi Mountain. At one time, Seigantoji Temple and Nachi Taisha Shrine were both part of one sacred site, Nachi Mountain. Evidence for this former unity still exists. Traces of red paint can still be found in the rafters of the temple. At one time, both the temple and shrine were painted the same color and considered a single complex. Gods and Buddhas living side by side. For believers in the Kannon Pure Land, the Kumano gods were temporary manifestations of Buddhist deities. This syncretistic fusion of the two belief systems is the reason why Amida Buddha has a central place among the gods of Kumano. In the 12th century, faith in Kannon reached a feverish pitch. One of the centers of this faith was found here by the sea at Fuderakusanji Temple. It was believed that Kanon's Pure Land paradise was located beyond the broad sea to the south. Monks who believed in the Pure Land would set sail from this temple heading south. These voyages to certain death were called Fudaraku Tokai, or Fudaraku Passage. This statue of a Kanon was made during the late Heian period. Monks planning to take the passage stayed in this main hall first, devoting themselves to a week of prayer to this Kanon. A boat with a torii, or Shinto gate, lies in one corner of the temple grounds. It is a replica of the boats used by monks for the passage. The use of a torii gate provides more proof that gods and Buddhas live together. Taking small amounts of water and food, monks taking the passage were sealed into the boat's small cabin with nails and sent out to sea, never to return. The custom of taking the Fudaraku Passage continued for about 850 years. More than 20 monks are said to have set sail, but not all of them went willingly. The story of Konkobo is a case in point. Konkobo, the head priest of the temple, could not bring himself to take the passage while still alive. However, his last 3 predecessors had all happened to take the passage at 61 years of age, so when Konkobo himself turned 61, he was forced by other monks and villagers to do likewise. Filled with fear, Konkobo was put to sea. Once on the water, however, he broke through the cabin door and jumped overboard in an attempt to escape. Gasping for breath, he was washed ashore on a small island. But villagers on the island caught him and, returning him to the boat, heartlessly forced him to continue his journey. In the mountains behind Fudaraku-sanji Temple, memorial markers still quietly honor the memory of those who sailed far out to sea. Author Jiro Kosaka recorded the thoughts he had about these monks as he stood before the markers.
What are these gravestones trying to tell us as they stand here worn and weathered by the years? Is it the religious ecstasy of those who finally behold the longed-for Pure Land of Kanon? Or the isolation of those boarded up in a living coffin on a passage boat? Is it starvation? Or perhaps the hell of rough and turbulent waters? As I considered these things, I raised my eyes and found myself looking out over the sea. I could see an island with red-brown rocks that seemed to stain the water. They say that this was the island. After the terrified Konkobo broke out of the cabin and jumped into the sea, clinging to a broken plank, this was the island where he washed ashore.
After Konkobo's untimely death, the practice of sending living monks out to sea was discontinued. The Nachi Senkei mandala was painted during the late Muromachi period. With Nachi Mountain placed in the center, this work provides a detailed portrait of the world of Kumano religious faith, where gods, Buddhas, and ascetic practice are all fused into one. Fudaraku-sanji Temple, where monks departed for the Pure Land. A holy man is shown just at the moment of setting sail. Even the mentors and priests who guide pilgrims on the path of ascetic practice are depicted, testifying to the sacredness of the Kumano region, where gods and Buddhas merge. The city of Shingu lies at the mouth of the Kumanogawa River in Wakayama Prefecture. This is the home of another of the three main shrines of Kumano Sanzan, Hayatama Taisha. Kumano Hayatama Taisha is also called Shingu, which means new shrine. The name Shingu comes from the fact that the many gods who had been worshipped from ancient times had been given a new home at this shrine. One of the old gods is also worshipped here at Kamikura Shrine. The god in question is a huge boulder. According to legend, the gods of Kumano Sanzan alighted on this rock when they first came to Earth. Each year, on the night of February 6th, men carrying burning torches run through the darkness in a jostling crowd down these steep steps. This is called Oto Matsuri, the Festival of Torches. By carrying the sacred fire home with their torches, participants welcome the gods into their homes. This festival is also a rite of passage, since no boy in Shingu is considered a man until he participates. The author Kenji Nakagami, a native of Shingu, participated in the festival almost every year.
Even after the gates to the sacred precinct were closed, it took a long time for the fire to arrive. The men, dressed all in white, had drunk sake before climbing the steep stair and were now quite drunk. Becoming impatient, they started to hit the rock, and it wasn't long before fights broke out. Then the gates opened and the sacred fire entered, with the gates closing fast again behind. The men gathered around and lit their torches. Soon the entire precinct was transformed into a sea of flame and smoke.
This fire festival has been observed every year for 1,400 years, marking a human fear and awe of fire that continue to this day. Totsukawamura village lies near the center of the Ki Mountains in Nara Prefecture. Nestled in a rich natural environment, people have lived here for centuries, supporting themselves by hunting, gathering plants, and using forest resources. Feelings of gratitude and awe toward the natural world gave rise to unique religious beliefs and culture here that are different from those found in farming communities.
害受けるためにこのネットを張ってるんですわ。それたまたま今朝かかったらしいんで。
鹿はこうよく降りてくるんですか？
もうしょっちゅう来ます。
しょっちゅうやこら。そこらはもう何もありやせんわ。鹿やしのどんと一緒や。
Most people in Totsukawamura make their living through forestry. During the off-season in the winter, they hunt. The artist Taro Okamoto, who is fascinated by the roots of Japanese culture, notes the following in his book, Mysterious Japan.
The brilliant central culture of the Nara and Heian courts was surrounded by darkness and mystery. Though close by, the area from Totsukawa to Kumano was an inaccessible and unknown land. The endless rows of mountain peaks and great forests were home to only a few mountain folk and the practitioners of secret religious austerities. Though close to the capital, it was a broad expanse, isolated from other locales both on land and by sea. Unknown countries are not frightening if they are far away, but to have this closed world so nearby must have inspired special feelings of awe and fear.
The people here fully understood the severity of Mother Nature. For that very reason, they worshipped her. They lived in a completely different world from those who lived in the capital. Many people who lived in the capital city of Kyoto 1,000 years ago believed that Kumano, located to the south, was in fact the pure land of Kannon. In the 10th century, pilgrimages to Kumano became very popular. A doctrine called the latter day of the law became widely accepted during this time. It said that Buddha's teachings were gradually losing their potency and that the world was coming to an end. The anxiety and fear this generated compelled the ruling class to make pilgrimages to Kumano. Emperors and retired emperors began to compete in the imperial processions that they took to Kumano. The multiple lines of courtiers comprising an imperial procession took more than 20 days to complete the 630-kilometer round trip to Kumano. At Hayatama Taisha Shrine, a stone monument records the number of processions that came there. A total of 140 processions were undertaken, beginning with that of retired Emperor Uda in the 10th century. The roads made to accommodate pilgrims to Kumano Sanzan are today called Kumano Kodo, the old roads of Kumano. They include the Kohechi Road from Koyasan through Kumano, Nakahechi Road from Tanabe through the mountains, Ohechi Road which runs along the coast, and Iseji Road which connects Ise with Kumano. The route most often used by the emperors went from Kyoto through Osaka to Tanabe and from there to Kumano on the Nakahechi Road. Nakahechi Road was a difficult mountain road with many steep slopes and mountain passes. Pilgrims passed many small shrines called oji along the way. Each was dedicated to a Kumano deity. Pious aristocrats prayed at each of these shrines as they progressed. They also left a wealth of stories behind. The 12th century poet Fujiwara no Teika was one of the nobles who went on an imperial procession. He recorded the tribulations of the trip in a diary called the Megetsuki, or Record of a Clear Moon. According to this record, Teika grew ill from intense cold during a procession that was undertaken late in the year, in what is now the month of November.
The 14th of the month, clear weather. From Takijiri to this place, we traveled over steep stony slopes and past ponds, where I grew dizzy and fuzzy-headed. Yesterday I injured my foot slightly when we crossed a river. The 16th, clear weather. My coughing grows worse. There's nothing I can do. I feel completely dispirited, and it's very difficult for me to keep going.
Imperial processions were very popular at the end of the Heian period in the 12th century. It was a time of frequent warfare and strife, which seemed to confirm the doctrine of the latter days of the law. Hoping to protect their own authority and safety, generations of emperors and aristocrats believed that the only way to assure their continued welfare was by seeking the grace of the Kumano gods through arduous pilgrimage. As time passed, pilgrimages to Kumano became popular among commoners too, as depicted in the story Oguri Hangan. Oguri Hangan is killed by the father of his lover Terute Hime, but with the help of Emma, the judge of hell, he is brought back to life in a new, sickly form. Unable to walk, he sits on a cart and depends on the help of strangers to pull him on the pilgrimage to Kumano. Although she doesn't recognize him, Terute Hime helps Oguri Hangan complete his pilgrimage. Arriving safely at Kumano, he bathes in a hot spring, whereupon he is transformed back into his former self and reunited with Terute Hime. At the Yunomine hot spring near Hongu Taisha Shrine, there is an ancient stone called Chikaraishi, or Strength Rock. According to legend, Oguri Hangan lifted this rock to test his strength after being cured of his illness. The same Kumano gods that cured Oguri Hangan welcomed with open arms people of every rank, age, and gender. Combining the compassion of Buddha with the spiritual power of the Shinto gods, the gods of Kumano could heal sickness and cleanse people of defilement. This reputed power was one reason why commoners felt such a strong attraction to Kumano. The pilgrims' roads led the faithful to the gods of Kumano and the pure land of Kannon, but they also led to the land of the dead. By being buried in the land of the dead, a person could be resurrected, just like Oguri Hangan. Thus, the pilgrims' roads of Kumano represented an escape from the harsh realities of life and a chance for rebirth. This is the Musashi district in Totsukawamura village. In the late 19th century, a great change occurred here, where people had traditionally worshipped Shinto gods and Buddhist deities together. In a cemetery set apart from the community, the gravestones bear only the names used by the deceased in this life. No Buddhist names are used. This is because Totsukawamura became a Shinto village in the Meiji period. The disappearance of Buddhist names was the result of a decree issued by the Meiji government, which separated Shintoism and Buddhism. This decree, which promoted Shintoism as the state religion, soon led to the repudiation of Buddhism as a foreign religion, sparking a national movement aimed at abolishing Buddhism entirely. The anti-Buddhism movement was especially violent here in Totsukawamura, resulting in the abolition of all 53 of the village's temples. Totsukawamura became a Shinto village, and yet there remains one community center today, where an old temple plaque hangs. Komyoji Temple. This was the name of a temple that stood in this district prior to the Meiji period. This center provides a safe haven for Buddhist images that escaped the wrath of the abolitionist movement. Was it after abolition that this Buddha lost his hands? About 30 years ago, the villagers discovered a cache of Buddhist images that had been hidden away by temple priests. They gave the images a safe home here. No one living today remembers when the temple still stood, but the older villagers have found it quite natural to practice Buddhism. More than a century has passed since the temples disappeared, but for centuries before that, no line had been drawn between Buddhism and Shintoism in this region.
神様とね、お寺と区別してますかって。
何を？
神様はその神教はお寺やろ。ほんで神様は違うやろ。それをまあ区別してるかって。
まあほんで仏さんの前で般若心経もあげるし。朝私はその神道の祝詞と先祖さんへあげて、それでからねまた般若心経を仏さんへあげる。神様は別に祝詞とあげれやせんけど、仏さんへ先祖を拝むで神道の祝詞とで、それともお茶や。
Living here in the mountains, the villagers feel the close presence of gods and Buddhas. But their lives are changing with the times. Until about 1965, they supported themselves by lumbering. Now, though, they can't compete with imported wood, so fewer and fewer forests are being managed. Over the years, forester Masanao Higashi has quietly watched these changes overtake him. Since hurting his leg, he's been unable to continue working in the mountains as he'd like. Instead, he's turned his attention to finding the secret hidden in the heart of the trees. He says that maybe the Buddhas and gods he carves will serve as an offering to the tens of thousands of trees he has harvested in his life.
これがこのも今朝起きて合掌してるような形にも作ろうと思って出すんやな。やはりね、木の命を絶つことしとったら何かこう木に対して恩返し魂を入れてやると。でうちの 神棚といった床さんに祀るということは、まあ私の心としてね、魂を得て恩返ししたるということが、まあ随一の願いというか、そういう私の信条ですわ。
Feelings of gratitude and awe toward nature. This is the form that prayer takes in the hearts of those who live here. Dense forests that harbor the souls of the dead. Steep mountains that pacify both gods and Buddhas. Pilgrims' roads that have served both emperors and peasants. For over 1,000 years, the Key Mountains have been etched by the memories of people seeking solace and peace.